If consciousness disappears, but no one is there to confirm it, did it truly vanish? Edge of Becoming. Episode 17. Null cannot testify. Can the disappearance of consciousness ever be confirmed? To say consciousness has disappeared, something must be present to witness that disappearance. But if consciousness has truly vanished, there is no subject left to make that observation. This leads to three possibilities. Possibility 1. Consciousness disappeared, but cannot be confirmed. Even if consciousness disappears, there's no consciousness left to acknowledge the loss. So, the disappearance can't be proven from the inside. If anything is still recognizing the disappearance, then something still exists. Therefore, the absence of consciousness can only be speculated about, never experienced firsthand. In this world, consciousness has vanished, become something others guess at, not something the self could ever state. Like death, it cannot be described by the one who died. This ties into a deeper question. Can we ever know nothingness? Conclusion. If there is no one to recognize its disappearance, we cannot truly say consciousness is gone. Possibility 2. Consciousness didn't vanish, it transformed. What if consciousness didn't disappear but changed form? To say it disappeared assumes consciousness has a fixed shape. But what if it just keeps evolving, flowing into another form? In this world, from an individual's view, it may seem to vanish, but in a greater sense, it continues as part of something larger. Like an individual mind dissolving into a cosmic awareness. A concept aligned with oneness or universal consciousness. Conclusion. Consciousness may not vanish. It may simply shift into another state of being. Possibility 3. The concept consciousness disappeared is flawed. Maybe the phrase itself is self-contradictory. The concept of disappearance assumes something once was, but is it valid to say that consciousness, in its essence, can even disappear? If it could, we'd need a second consciousness to confirm it. Which means consciousness still exists. In this world, consciousness has disappeared becomes logically incoherent. If nothing remains, not even the idea of disappearance, then what we're describing may not be describable at all. Conclusion. Perhaps even saying consciousness disappeared is logically impossible. What does it truly mean to say consciousness has vanished? Let's revisit the three perspectives. The unverifiable viewpoint. Even if consciousness vanishes, no one remains to confirm it. Saying consciousness vanished becomes meaningless. The transformation viewpoint. Consciousness didn't vanish, it shifted form. It continues, in another shape. The contradiction viewpoint. The very phrase consciousness vanished is self-contradictory. Consciousness may be a concept that cannot disappear. Which is the most accurate? That depends entirely on how we define consciousness. If it's individual awareness, it may vanish. If it's a flowing phenomenon, it transforms. If it's fundamentally indestructible, then vanishing is incoherent. But no matter which definition you choose, if there's no subject left to perceive the vanishing, then it remains ultimately unverifiable. Conclusion. From every angle, we cannot confirm that consciousness has disappeared. Can we ever confirm the disappearance of consciousness? If consciousness truly vanished, could we ever know it? If it returned, was it ever really gone? If it truly vanished, does that mean we're speaking of a state of absolute nothingness? Or is the concept of vanishing consciousness itself invalid? Because if we claim to prove its disappearance, that means some conscious witness remains, which negates the very claim. Conclusion. To say consciousness has vanished requires something to confirm it. But if everything is gone, then that confirmation becomes a paradox. So the next question is, if we cannot prove that consciousness has disappeared, does that mean consciousness continues forever? Or does this make the question of continuation versus disappearance itself unnecessary?